And I gave the answer that all love marriages don't necessarily have love. And all arranged marriages don't necessarily have love. Because it's not so much about how you come together, but it's about what you do after you're together. It's about the commitment, it's about the energy, it's about the time and attention and the sacrifice that you make for someone. That's what makes love. That's what makes connection and bond. And therefore, we have to be investing in relationships. Relationships don't come automatically. We have to be selfless. The depth of any relationship is proportionate to the amount of selflessness in that relationship. Why did Srila Prabhupada say the love between the mother and child is the most deepest type of love in the material world? Because the level of selflessness in that relationship is probably above and beyond any other relationship we see. So the depth of any relationship is in the selflessness. Therefore, like now is Diwali time, even if we look at Ramayana, then Ramayana is basically just a series of selfless relationships. Ram is so selfless that he's willing to give up all his plans, all his power, all of his resources, just to honor his father's word, and he's willing to embrace all discomfort just to follow the order of his father. He's willing to sacrifice to that level. Sita is willing to give up all royal comfort, to give up all the maidservants and all the beauty of Ayodhya to go and live in the forest. She says, because Ayodhya without you, Ram, is like the forest. And the forest with you is Ayodhya for me. Bharat is willing to give up everything he's received, and he goes to the forest and he says, Ram, it's yours. And an even bigger sacrifice than that is that Bharat's willing to go back and rule the kingdom, knowing all the hurt that was caused in order for him to do that, knowing that Ram is in the forest living as a hermit. But he has to do it because Ram told him to do it. What sacrifice? Lakshman, who for 14 years doesn't eat, doesn't sleep, who can understand this kind of sacrifice. But that's why the relationships are so deep, because we're willing to make a sacrifice. You see, like we are like magnets. So the more that one is thinking me, people are repelled more and more away from you. So if sometimes people say, I don't have deep relationships, of course we cannot judge. There may be many reasons for that, but one big reason why we may not have deep relationships with the people around us is because we are having a very selfish mentality. And when we have selfish mentality, then people are repelled. But you'll see that when your mentality becomes very selfless, becomes about service, becomes about giving, then you'll see that everyone is attracted to you. Because that's what forms for deep relationship. So investment means to always be ready to give and not just simply think. So the material world is always everyone's thinking about themselves, and that's why practically every relationship is superficial. Like once there was a boss, and then he drove into the car park with a brand new Mercedes Benz. So all of the employees were on the top floor. They were looking in the car park. He, drove in with this brand new car. So then one of the employees walked down, and then the boss came through the door. So the boss said, you like my car, huh? I saw you all watching. So the employee said, amazing car, really nice, really top of the range, good taste. So the boss looked at him and he said, look, next year, if you work harder, if you work longer hours, if you work your heart out and give your mind, body, words, your very everything to this company, then next year I'll have even bigger car. Then he realized, my God, at least he's honest. Because that's what the world is. One person is just exploiting another person. It's just complete exploitation. So real relationship is based on selflessness, investment. So relationships are not cheap. They take time. Therefore, you must be patient. They say in any relationship, it goes through 4 stages. Forming, storming, norming, and then bonding. So forming means you come together. Storming, you can understand what that means. There's always some in the beginning, some friction. Norming means you get to know each other, you know each other's boundaries, and then bonding means once all of those things have happened, you can really establish great appreciation. So that's a long process. That takes time. And means throughout the whole process, we must invest in relationships. So if we're not spending time, quality time, and one thing I'll say also, it's not the amount of time you spend necessarily with someone, but it's the amount of quality that you give in that time. Because, nowadays people are together. Once I was in Northampton and I was walking up the street and there were 5 people in a Costa Coffee sitting around the table and all 5 of them were on their phone. He's making notes.
Forming, storming, what was that?
Nowadays you don't know. When someone's on the phone in the class, it could be bona fide or it could not be. So we have to, don't worry, I'm trusting. Giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Accepting as well.
Accepting. And they were all on the phone. And then I came 1 hour later and they were all there still on the phone. And then I realized so much time together, but quality time, there's no quality there. Yeah. They say attention is the most valuable gift you can give to someone. So investing, you must be always investing. Then a relationship will work. But shall I tell you one thing? Even if you are accepting, even if you are trusting, and even if you are constantly investing, you know what will happen? Still people will make mistakes. Still people will let you down. Still people will do things and you think, how could you do that? Therefore, the 4th thing is you have to be forgiving. Because if you're not ready to let go of someone's mistake, then you'll have to let go of that person. If you're not ready to forgive people, then you'll have to forget having a relationship with them. Because we live in an age where each one of us are basically making mistakes all the time. So sometimes they say we are judges for ourselves and lawyers for others. So when we look at ourselves, we think, okay, all right, I'll give myself the benefit of the doubt. When we look at someone and say, no, this, how can you do that? And that's totally outward. So we must forgive. Nowadays, people don't know how to forgive. So many people I meet on the street, then they say oh, and we had one argument, 25 years ago, and that's it. Since then, we haven't spoken to each other. If you look at the Bhagavatam, it's full of so many forgiving people, isn't it? Look at Vasudeva and Devaki. Kamsa just killed their children. And after Krishna was born, then Kamsa realized, oh my God, Krishna is born, I don't know, and I've done all of this. Then there was a moment when Kamsa actually began to feel some repentance that, oh no, I did a bad thing. And you know what? Vasudeva and Devaki were just ready. They were just ready to say, okay, whatever it is, They just saw something in him that maybe he's changed, and they were just ready to forgive. But then again, he again became covered. But the interesting thing is that although Kamsa did so many bad things, Vasudeva and Devaki never shut the door. They never said, okay. You know, sometimes you get to it with someone where you think, that is it. That, no more, finished. Vaishnav means to always leave the door open for someone, actually, to be forgiving. Because Vaishnav knows that everyone ultimately is pure, is a servant of Krishna. Why should we be so forgiving? Because Krishna is so forgiving. Like, say for example, in anything we do, there's an intention and there's an action, isn't it? So like, my intention may be to serve Mukunda Hari Prabhu, and therefore I'll do so. I may bring you a glass of water or something. By the way, can I get some water? If possible. Thank you. So in anything we do, there's an intention and an action. So now, when we serve Krishna, there's an intention and there's an action. Now, can you think of someone in the Bhagavatam who had a devotional intention but a non-devotional action? Dhruva, devotional intention. Was it initially his intention devotional? No. He said, I want